All right. So yesterday, I kind of went over the different type of grids. I don't want to waste your time on that because, like, you have that sheet of paper. Hopefully, that helps. Some of the things that the components of the grid. Just very quickly to recap. The format, is basically just whatever the document is that you're using. So the edges of whether it's a sheet of paper or the screen, that's your format. Margins, right in here from the edge of your format to where you're bringing the text to, that's going to be your margins. And then flow lines, all right? So to implement flow lines, so flow lines is, if you're creating a baseline alignment, it helps to have it. I personally I enjoy designing baseline alignment, but I don't use them. I know for a fact that as long as my text is all using the same leading, and I make certain that I go in my Command B and I have everything aligned to the top, I'm not going to worry about having lines in there. However, if you like to have the lines in there and you want to use baseline alignment, you go up to View, you go down to Grids and Guides, and then it's this option right here, Show Baseline Grid. So when you have that in here, you can then move your text to kind of sit on that baseline, and then you'll see every single line as it goes through is sitting on that baseline. So that way, then you know that throughout the entire design, you're keeping true to make sure the alignment is correct. Um, Again, the default for this is 12 points. So if we were to go ahead and change this to 9 points and dropping it to 10.8, you can see that gets messed up, right? So what we got to do is we got to go into our preferences. So you go here, you go down to grids, and then right here for your baseline is 12 points. So we are now going to make it 10.8, I believe it is. I hope. Yeah. All right. So then that's how you change it to make sure you stay true um, to the baseline alignment. All right. Again, it's useful if you like to have it there, but you don't have to. All right. So we're going to go up here. I'm going to hide baseline grid, I think. Yeah. Oh, actually, one other thing. So there's a glitch. Um, so we go here. Let me go to like, say, 63. Yeah. So if you go into like a odd zoom, it disappears on you. All right. So then just reset your zoom to like 75 or 100, and then it will bring it back. I don't know why it does it, but if you're in a weird zoom magnification, it may disappear on you. It is there. So just if you add the baseline and you go up to there and you hit view, go here and then you have show, and it's not showing up, just zoom in, go at like increments of 50, 75, 100 and see if you can see it then. All right. All right. All right. So the next thing is bringing in columns and rows. So columns was running up and down, rows running across. Um, the modules are the individual checkers, right? And then when you start joining in the checkers, you're essentially making these spatial zones that then forms the rows and columns. In between each of those is going to be gutters, okay? So to implement that into your design, we're going to go to layout, create guides, and then in here, 0, 0. If we just simply start creating, I want to preview so I can see it. As we increase the rows and columns, you can see them starting to form in here, right? So as we have an increase, you can see them running all the way across the page. Now you have options to have the guides be applied to the page or to the margins. All right. So there are times, and like I said, you're still in a process, even though this is like the third class that we're working on this project. Everything is still very movable, right? Nothing should be hopefully solidified decision making. So if you're still not 100% saying, at this margin, I think could maybe change, then, maybe add a couple more columns and see. And it's like, I'm liking what's happening here. So maybe I'm going to adjust my margins to come out to here. All right. So you're looking at this, you're like, all right, I think I like what's happening here. I'm going to hit OK. And then I'm going to move. Oops. I am going to lock my guides, so I can't move them. And then I'm going to bring in my text and work into what those modules are. Now, the rule that you cannot break is you cannot bring your text into the gutter. All right. So you have to make sure that you stay right on these lines. If you bring in an image and you have an image coming in, it has to sit within those gutters in a line, right? It can break across and sitting here, but it cannot sit here. It cannot sit here, or obviously in the middle, all right? So the whole point of grid systems is to keep everything aligned and keep everything balanced, all right? So if you start ignoring these guides, why put them in the first place? Okay, so just make sure if you bring these in, you're staying true to what the checkered guidelines are giving you. All right, so you're working on this. You're like, you know what? I really don't like this. I kind of want to go back to what my original margins were. So you come back up, create guide. Oops, not that. Create guides. And then there's an option right here to remove. Okay, so if I didn't click that off, and now I start creating new guides on top of that, you can see new ones are just being applied to it. Okay, so by selecting this, it will remove what is there. Why didn't it remove? Right. Oh, is it because I locked it? Yeah. Okay, so before you hit remove, definitely make sure you unlock your guides this way, then you can remove it. Now, when I stop putting in my new guides, I want margins. So you can see right here, you have this space. Now I'm going to click there, and it's going to go into my margins and branch out from there. So once you have this set, the other thing that you can change is the gutters. All right. So right here, I got this happening with my gutters here. I want to increase the sizing of the gutters themselves, and so then you can see what those gutters are going to do, and where you keep everything away. So once you feel comfortable with the grid system that you want to work with, then implement it. Once you have this, I would definitely almost take like a screenshot of this. So this way, then when you apply it to other spreads, it's going to sit there for you. All right. So that is that. The other thing, I'm going to cancel. Let's get rid of the guides. Good. All right. Next thing is that we covered yesterday was text wraps. So your job is to create a balanced composition that isn't just a, let's do this, and that, delete that, right? So I wish I had more text, but even if I just bring this in here, nobody wants to read this, okay? That right there is just an insane amount of text that is unnecessary and not very inviting. So what you want to do is you want to bring in negative space into your layouts, breathing room around your text. You want to bring images into your design. that help kind of break up that, explain what the text is going to be. But you can also bring in pull quotes that kind of just stand out away from the text, that just gives a brief description of what that article, what is happening on that page. So if you end up having okay, I guess I'm just going to use this as my pull quote. You have a separate text box. You increase it a bit. And then I want to put it into this right here, or rather right here, okay? What you do not do is say, all right, I want this pull quote to sit here. I'm going to hit return a couple times and then drop that in right here. You do not do that, because what happens if all of a sudden, oh, you know what? We really want to remove this text. It's gone. Now you're going to have to sit there and say, oh, now I got to move this back up over there. No. What you do is you sit here and you add a text wrap to this. Let me get rid of these here. Where's my text wrap? Here we are. Okay, so we got this. We have this sitting here. We're going to bring it in here, and then I'm going to apply my text wrap. Okay, so as I move this around, it's going to push the text away. So with this sitting here, I can see that this, wherever it goes, and it's sitting here, not that one, it keeps the text away. If I increase the size, you can see how much it gets pushed away. So now, if for some reason I'm now deleting this text, that text wrap doesn't get interfered with. It's just, it moves with the type, okay? When you add a text wrap, don't put it in the middle. Well, let me put it back to this and do this, right? Even if you end up having this sitting in the middle, it creates a really awkward spacing with the text on both sides, right? You want to think about how you can have it sit into the design and not have awkward spaces like this, all right? So if this is sitting here, I want to have it here, or maybe I want to do something like this, and then move it over to the right. I bring it in. I can either use this option here, or if I want to keep this sitting here, I can then push this out. See? So you can see how just that is kind of coming across. And then you can move this around and figure out where to have that sitting in your design. Now, there are times that you want to bring other elements in and interact with the text wrap, right? So let's say I want to have a huge, do this, open quote. So I want to have this kind of sitting over there to kind of open up that quote. Maybe I want to have it sitting in the back of it, okay? So if I move it in, and you can see it disappears, right? Because there's a text wrap on this. So what I need to do, right, so if I leave it here, it's just sitting there, I need to ignore the text wrap. So with this selected, hit Command B, and then there's an option right here to ignore text wrap. I'm going to click it, hit OK, and now when I move it in, it doesn't get interfered or affected by the text wrap that is on there. Okay? I would watch out for when you do end up applying text wraps to text boxes. It's very common to reuse text frames in your designs. You may copy this over, and then you have this sitting here, and you're like, all right, you know what? I want to use this, and I end up pulling this out. Click on this, hit V. I forget that I didn't have that as a text wrap, and I have this sitting here. I move this into place, and why is this not working? My text wrap's there. How come that's not happening? But it sure works here, but not here, because this one here had the text wrap selected. So just be careful when you end up pulling in and recopying and reusing existing text boxes. All right. What else? What else? Oh, images. You can add. Get this out of the way. I need that one. Don't need this one. All right. So I want to bring in an image. I brought in this. So this sits there. I have it sitting in the middle. And then I add a text wrap to it. And then you can see that it kind of goes across the entire white of the background. Now, if your image has a white background, you can let InDesign kind of select that background for you and kind of isolate the apple away from the white background. It is not always going to be 100% perfect, but the other option is to bring the apple into Photoshop, use the pen tool, clip all the way around, and then create a clipping mask or path from that. That then comes in here, and then you would see the path that you had selected. All right. If it's already a white background, see if InDesign is going to let it do for you. Right. So I'm going to go hit Detect Edges, and then I'm going to increase. And since I'm moving it away, it does it for me automatically. All right. Now there's two options in here. You have the detect edges. Oops. You also have select subject. Both of those are going to be pretty much the same. Okay. There are certain elements that I've brought in into InDesign that this work better than detect edges, and vice versa. So I would apply or try both if one doesn't really get the look that you're going for. All right. Um, what else? What else? What else? Oh, there was one. So I didn't go over this. Actually, there's two things. Um, Two things just in case. So let's say like I have this sitting here and I'm happy with this as like an image placement, right? And I want to bring an image directly into here. You can then just drop the image. So if I have this, I can drop it right there. All right, so you can end up having that sitting inside a text, rather a box, without having to come in and then redraw a box over something if you already have it. Okay. The other thing is when you bring an image in, you have two things happening. Right now, I have a blue box with my image. If I pull this blue box in, I'm basically making a mask out of that image, right? So you can see this sitting here. If I increase the blue box, it increases the image itself. If I want to decrease the image that's inside that box, that container, I can click on the disk or double click. You can see it changes to red. And you can see this sitting all the way out here right now. I can then come in and then adjust and move and change the size of the image inside that box by highlighting and adjusting the red. So you have the image itself that you can select, and then you have the box, the container that is kind of putting it into that clipping mask. All right. The only other thing that I want, I had a note and then I didn't show, I'm not sure why, is this. And I think it's because nobody has their text super clean yet. So let's say I have, actually, let me move this out of the way. So I'm going to have this sitting here. I got this sitting here. And then I have another one that's going to sit here. All right. So I want to have these all aligning itself and be the same size, right? So I'm going to align to the top to make sure everything is sitting there. I'm going to then move this up, and then maybe I want that to kind of sit there. I now need to make this, get rid of this space. And then I end up moving this down. All right. Now, say sitting here, what you could do, I want these to be the same, and then I got to figure out how to make this kind of come down. Maybe I end up selecting this and then increasing the tracking just to get a little bit more text into there. Now I want these to be perfectly the same height, right? So if this is like right here and this is right there, and that you can see each of these are not lined up perfectly. What you can do, especially if you're not going to be using baseline alignment and you want to make sure that they're the exact same, you can select all of your text, go to Object, go to Fitting, and then Frame to Content. What's going to happen is it locks everything into place. Let me do it to this one here. So this way it's, right? So I have this sitting in here. I really want that to be closer exactly to what that is. I'm going to go to Object, Fitting, and then Frame to Content. It pulls it right to that baseline. All right, so this way then it kind of closes everything in. That helps with images, but it definitely helps with text when you're trying to keep your text boxes aligned on the top and the bottom. You can very easily look at this and go to the top and say, all right, here is this. And then I just click on this one, paste it, click on this one, and go up here and paste it. Or just select everything and make sure you tighten everything up by going to content to frame. All right. So that is everything that we did yesterday. Hopefully it helps. I'm gonna drop the text in, kind of outlining what every thing that I covered. So hopefully you can reference it. And then we basically have 2 more classes of kind of tools that we'll go over. But essentially, we're getting close to being done with tutorials, and then hopefully tomorrow, looking at your work, I'll be able to see where you're going with your design and actually start helping individuals progress their layouts. All right. So have a great night, and I will see you tomorrow.